Hey guys, it's Stuart, and I just thought it was an apt moment to talk a little bit about not just goal setting for the new year, but also mind setting for the new year. So, there was a conversation that sprouted from the community, and a question came, how do I set goals based on the intention to just focus on one thing and then stretch myself? And, I understand the idea of the concept of focus and stretching, but I didn't quite understand what the big deal was. And then I found out the answer. I asked this member, what's stopping you? And he said that he's afraid that he might be wasting his time and whatever he takes action on doesn't pan out. So let me correct that mindset a little bit. This community member is a victim of a lot of societal brainwashing, I guess, where you think if you take a short amount of time, you're going to get everywhere you need. And let me suggest to you that getting to wherever it is that you go is a never-ending journey. Just setting up yourself for disappointment in this way is not going to be very helpful. In fact, it's something called the fixed mindset. Likewise, another friend of mine approached me some time back and said, I want to get into the training and consulting space. I said, sure, that's great. How long are you giving yourself? And she said 6 months. I nearly blurted out laughing. Maybe she doesn't have a good benchmark of it. And I do know that even the best trainers who do have strong mentoring actually take a much longer time than that. The trial and error period is actually much, much longer. Just to give her a dose of reality, I had to tell her that she needed to learn marketing. She needed to know how to craft good proposals. She needed to be able to stand in front of people and negotiate with them. And she also needed to be able to deliver exceptionally well. Well, if you can do all that in 6 months with ground zero experience, then all the more power to you, but she couldn't. So I found it a little bit odd, but maybe we ought to explore these assumptions behind the way we're doing things in order to not get into the trap of the fixed mindset and think that just a short span of time without calibrating ourselves or developing ourselves or even thinking that long-term investment in something is going to be not really worth our while. In my opinion, whatever it is that I've done have all triangulated towards me getting better and better. Do you remember the first time you ever tried to do something? It was hard, wasn't it? When it was hard, did it become easier as you did it? And the answer should be yes. If you stopped at the first time where it was hard, then the second time will be just as hard. And then the third time will be just as hard. But here's the funny thing. The more you do it, the better you will get. I'm not sure whether that kind of strikes you. The current mindset that he's adopted is simply going to stop him from pursuing any goal. I mean, just think about it, right? Did Martin Luther King Jr. stand up in front of an audience and say, you know what, I'm not sure whether this whole thing is going to go well? Do you think that Lee Kuan Yew stood up and took over this nation by wondering whether or not it will pan out? No. It was the fact it will pan out that you begin to take actions towards that direction. Everything along the way are just lessons in order for you to get there in a more complete fashion. A friend of mine, James Leong, who's a lecturer in the National University of Singapore, great guy, I've known him for decades, and he's the guy who turns finance into something really fun. I didn't believe it at first, but then when I heard him talk, it was pretty awesome. And one of the things he said is, when you're doing your budgeting, you got to have a plan. And he said, the value is not the plan. The value is the process of thinking about the plan. And that was so powerful. Now, I want you to understand that that's an exact analog for almost everything else. The value is not your studies. The value is the process of you applying yourself in your studies. The power and value is not in going to the gym. It's the process of going to the gym and getting your workouts done that's the most valuable. Now, I can't help but share this example, this illustration. I'm not sure about you guys, but you do know that I tend to wake up at about 4 a.m. almost every day. Just get some of these videos done, get some of my administrative work out of the way, some of my most productive time ever, right? Because it's something that I've done since the pandemic, and it's great to be in the presence of silence and to be together with myself. Most of you wouldn't know that over the last month or so, something happened to my PCB chip in the aircon compressor unit. And right now, I do not have air conditioning. And it's been like this for the last month or so, and it's hot as hell, right? Now, here's the problem. If this is the first time I'm feeling this way, it's obviously going to be very, very detrimental to my ability to deliver my videos, right? Secondly, if I just think about it and I go, oh my God, it's going to be completely warm, stuffy, I'm going to get sticky, I've got to wash more clothes, I've got to get my thoughts together in an environment where I can't even really breathe. How am I going to do this? Now, do you notice what has happened? I've created a fixed mindset and I've stopped myself from doing it because I've created a mental representation of the absolute torture and then tried to do something. Do you understand what you're doing to yourself? What you're doing is you're creating and you're setting up roadblocks in your 100-meter dash and then saying, okay, let's go. It doesn't make sense to me, right? So what you've got to realize is that in order to overcome difficult obstacles, you've got to put obstacles in your path. So let's put it this way. If I wanted to run a really, really strong 100-meter dash, what do? I need to take a look at all the muscles involved in that dash. I got to run fast. I got to take a look at all the other variables. Is it my stamina? Is it my endurance? Is it the moment I take off the blocks? So as I'm thinking about all these variables, I'm thinking about ways to add a microsecond to each of these so that I can get a better score. Technically, if you think about it, this is systemized brutality on yourself. Now, if you're going to do it on yourself, you can control it and you know when you can stop, thereby increasing your capacity and increasing your resiliency. But on the other hand, if it happens to you from the outside, you may not have the resiliency and you might break. I don't know whether this makes sense to you, but surely you need to put yourself under pressure and continue to increase that pressure to train yourself so that if anything happens in the world, you can take a chill pill. It's not going to affect you so badly. And I'm not saying that all things are going to be so easy to swallow, but the truth is that you'll be in a much better position to handle it than if you didn't do it at all. I still remember when I was training young kids, I came to realize that a lot of them didn't like to study, so it was easy for me to show them how to study and the methodology of how to study. It was intriguing for them, but many of them didn't get it. And they said, so what's the big deal? And I realized I could teach them how to do it, but they didn't know why they should do it. So I spent some time reflecting on this. Why did I want to study? Why did I want to get good grades? Okay, the natural things came up like, okay, do my parents proud, be viewed as somebody valuable in society, I guess. But something else was at the deeper core of that. I felt proud of myself, right? I felt proud of myself that I could do something that was tangible. In Singapore, unfortunately, we're so good at studying because we get all of these coaches to help us to study, to look at new ways to hack studying. No wonder we're so good at academically inclining ourselves because we're just so good at it. But tell me, is academic inclination going to help you to deal with tough emotional problems? And the answer is probably not, unless you have the same kind of infrastructure where people are emphasizing emotional coaching and emotional workouts inside your mind, just as if you're working out problem sums or going and doing additional assessment sheets. We are destined to become better at that which we practice well, but you're not good necessarily at pushing yourself to get tenacious. Think about it this way. You go to the gym so that you put yourself into a mode of suffering, right? You go run because that's exactly the same thing that you want. You want to be able to let your body suffer so that it gets used to the suffering. Same thing with business. If you want to get value out of the business, you've got to go through that suffering process. Sometimes suffering in the sense that you keep testing new ways of doing the old things and then getting different results, experimenting, testing, and going through this period of tenacity in order for you to do the things that will move the needle in the direction of your favor. If you've gotten it wrong, you work from bottom up. You say, okay, how can I improve this by 10%? How do I improve this by 15%? Instead, what if you had such a clear vision of the future that you can then fix that and say, let's assume that this is the inevitable truth, that we are definitely going to reach there. What assumptions do I have to make for this to be true? And then you work backwards on that, and that is the evolution of a big, hairy, audacious goal. Something that a lot of people don't understand because they start off by their own assumptions and try to build a business based on those assumptions. Instead, what assumptions must you have in order for this eventuality to take place? Do you have to change your assumptions? Do you have to rethink everything that you know of in the world today? That's how all the top entrepreneurs are doing it. They get a breakthrough inside their mind first, set a powerful goal that inspires them, then they'll find that almost every mistake is worth its own while. It's like when you ask somebody, can you move a mountain? They'll say, of course not. But take a look at our capabilities. You can excavate some portion of the mountain day by day, and eventually the mountain will be moved. I mean, look at humanity. We've created an island of plastics in the middle of the ocean. So if that negative stuff is possible, what about the positive stuff? Why not accumulate? So are you realizing that it's not just about, is it going to pan out? It's like you will be a completely different person as a result of going through these activities and pushing yourself and building your resiliency over a course of time. And when you do that, I can guarantee you one thing. You will be proud of yourself. Right now, because you're not moving, how can you be proud of yourself in anything you do? You'll constantly be plagued by the question, am I good enough? You'll be constantly plagued with the question, should I have done it? You'll also be constantly plagued with the feeling that you will never be able to make it. Is it time to stop? Is it time to get off the chair and start doing something really, really hard? Just for once, take a look at what you're practicing. What is it that you're unconsciously, habitually trained to do or tend to do? For example, if you're messy, then probably unconsciously there's a certain way of thinking that has gotten you to become messy. If you're always angry, there's a certain habit that you're constantly practicing, maybe unconsciously, that's gotten you better at getting angry. What are you getting better and better at? Being frustrated with your loved ones? Being upset every time something goes wrong? Alcoholism? Stress eating? Fear of the uncertain? Which is quite a funny thing. You're afraid of the uncertain, and then inside your mind, you're rehearsing those bad situations, creating an imaginary future that will never work, and then you fear that, so you stop, and then you'll never ever get past that. Why? Because you haven't practiced dealing with the fear, you've only practiced amplifying the fear. Is that what you want to get good at? And is that what you'll be proud of yourself for? Jim Rohn mentioned this one thing. Aim to be a millionaire, not for the million, but for the person that you will become as a result of that. And you don't have to make it totally hard for yourself, but you need to have a plan. And that's the kind of plan that you need to do. How many reps are you going to make? And how are you going to improve? How many videos are you going to create? And how are you going to improve? Right? How many friends are you going to make? How many times are you going to stand on the stage? How far are you going to continue to push this to a point where your way of speaking, your way of thinking, your way of acting becomes higher and higher and higher at a level that it can be deemed as excellence? So I ask you, in 2023, what is worth it for you? What is your assumption about that elusive goal that you want to accomplish? And are you going to take whatever you have and throw it at this goal so that you can improve your capacity to get to where you want to go? And sure enough, life is quite unpredictable, so you might want to go in this direction, but somewhere along the line it kind of like deviates you to a new pathway. Why? Because you put yourself out there in the universe. People are going to notice. That's why I always say this one thing. Maximize your platform. The platform may be really tiny, right? But in order for you to make it to the TED stage, you better make full use of that small, tiny platform first. And then as you're progressing, you'll find yourself actually getting better and better and better. Eventually, the TED stage will be ready for you when you prove yourself. The only reason why opportunities come up, rather than you trying to chase and hunt and find these people who can give you opportunities or beg for opportunities, you put yourself out there. You set up a project, you get yourself really good, and people will see it. If you're generating value for people, people will see it. And as a result, they will give you more opportunities. As a result, they will expose you to more platforms. Maximize those. They will get bigger. Maximize those. You will meet more people. Add more value because that's another platform and you maximize those. So as long as you go with the mentality of maximizing your platform, every single thing is a growth opportunity for you. That's where you arrive at self-mastery. You're honing every single part of you. Everything that is tough is a whetstone to sharpen your edge. I'll end off on this note. I mean, if you want an immediate result, I can tell you what is great as an immediate result. Get so angry that you smash your cameras and your phone and whatever. You will have an instant result. Is it something that you want? Probably not. You can go down on the street and insult the person because you're so angry and sock them in the face. you get an instant result. It's called jail. So if you really want instant results, let me tell you, they can go both ways, right? Instant gratification has never ever in the history of empirical research shown itself up to be a good idea. Instead, delayed gratification is the number one thing that most people go for. One of the things I like to inculcate is the value of tenacity. Even in small iterative cycles, it's going to add up. Call it training volume, call it airtime on stage, call it whatever you want. If you had experience with entrepreneurship as a 10-year-old, doing business at the age of 20 is not a big deal because you've seen it with your own eyes. You've got an unconscious blueprint of it. So if you don't have that, do yourself a favor. Start now. Start selling pens, for heaven's sake. Go out there and sell t-shirts if you need to. Go door-to-door knocking. And what you're likely to find is that the doorways to the universe of opportunities will open up to you. And that's where you'll find that everything is possible and anything that you choose is going to lead to a better life. Not necessarily just that one thing that you're hunting for. So if you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe button. Tell all your friends about it so that we can let this message go out there more frequently and more regularly in order to elevate people from a level of suffering to a level of freedom. And as a result of that, they will be able to take better actions for abundance. Till the next video, I'll see you.